ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैर्तुष्टुवांसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति नः इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नः तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः देवं नारायणं नत्वा सर्वदोषविवर्जितं परिपूर्णं गुरुंश्चान् गीतार्थं वक्ष्यामि लेशतः. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to friends who have joined for this exciting session on Jnana Vijnana Yoga. So, I'm going to stop sharing my slides and directly pass on to Venki ji, who will be leading and coordinating the rest of the session. Over to you, Venki.
Okay. I'm trying to share the screen here. One person can share. Are you guys able to see my screen or no?
Not yet.
Okay. So hopefully you should be able to see now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Oh, you're able to see. Okay. Let us continue the prayer that Madhuji has already started. I'm going to recite the entire Mangalacharana because we're beginning a new Shatka. So, Devam Narayanam Natva Sarvadosha Vivarjitam Paripurnam Gurumshchangi Tartham Vakshami Leshadaha Samasta Guna Sampurnam Sarvadosha Vivarjitam Narayanam Namaskritya Gita Tatparya Muchyate Gunagana Nilayam Patim Ramaya जगदगहनं च वासवी सूनुं मुनिकुलतिलकं च पूर्णबोधं गुरुमपि परमं गुरुं च मे वन्दे निरावदनाम्बोजराजहंसाय विष्णवे अमन्दानन्दसन्दोह सुन्दराकृतये नमः लक्ष्मीनारायणं नत्वा पूर्णबोधान् गुरूनपि कुर्मः श्रीकृष्णगीतायाः भाष्याद्युक्तार्थसङ्ग्रहम्. So with all namaskaras to our gurus and especially to the Lord God, the father of the entire universe, which is the Father's Day. So lots of congratulations to all the fathers, grandfathers in this audience. It's my pleasure to introduce chapter 7. And a lot of what I'm going to be discussing and talking is the information that was already shared between a few of us yesterday. So I want to warmly thank each one of them who contributed to this. What we're going to do today is to begin a brand new Shatka. This Shatka is the second Shatka that comes in. So up until now, Lord Bhagavan has described to us what are some of the internal and external things that you need to do to prepare for this jnana. Meaning, he's in the 6th chapter telling us you need to sit in a particular way, you need to keep your mind in a particular fashion, you need to have your eyes half open, half closed, those kinds of things. And then he's also telling you how you need to keep your mind, which is internal, meaning how you should have this pratyahara. And he went in a very elaborate way describing what essentially is the 8 limbed yoga, the Ashtanga yoga. And then subsequently, one of the questions that we are having is how can you even sit still if you don't know what it is that you need to be contemplating? And so the types of contemplation that you need to do has been described a little bit in the 6th chapter, but from the 7th chapter through to the 12th chapter, it is going to be described more elaborately, and he's going to give it with more nuance, and he's going to give it with multiple layers of meaning. So what does that mean? That means jnana and vijnana, a description of the jnana and the layered meanings within each is what is the vijnana, and that is how he is going to start in this particular chapter, which is the chapter called Jnana Vijnana Yoga. And so in this one chapter, like a couple of others, Arjuna has not asked any question. The Lord is only going to be talking the entire chapter. And in this particular chapter, what the Lord begins is Maya Sakta. Keep your mind on me is how he has begun this particular chapter. And it is a continuation of a question that Arjuna has previously asked. I'm going to be praying to you, but what happens if my prayers are stuck in the middle and I cannot continue it completely? That is the type of question that Arjuna has asked. And Sri Krishna has begun an answer to that, and then he's going to continue it in a really, really good way. What is it that I would like for us to take away from it is this picture that I created. We want to soar spiritually. And when we want to soar spiritually, we need to have three items in our boat or in our flight. So one is Mahatmya Jnana. We need to know what jnana, the jnana, the knowledge about God. We need to have Vishaya Vairagya. So we need to have a affinity for understanding the Lord. We need to have a sort of like non-interest in Vishayas. And then finally, we need to have Bhagavad Bhakti, which Jayatirth Muni has described very variously, very nicely, and Acharya as well, as basically Mahatma Jnana Yukta Sneha Prema, Nirantara Prema Pravaha. And so my wish is that we get all of this, and I invite Suresh ji to take this and sort of like continue on with the description of the first three shlokas. Then subsequently, I'm going to come in and talk about the Hari Jnana. There is a mistake here. I'm going to correct it. And then I will ask GVG to come in after me to explain the Vijnana that the Lord is explaining here. And then next week, we're going to have Neetaji explain the types of seekers, and then Prakashji will explain some of the outcomes for each one of these. And then finally, we will have Madhuji to bring all of it home with the right message. And then finally, we will have Anandji introduce chapter 8. I know that we wanted to do it a couple of weeks back and so on and so forth. Like they say, man proposes and God disposes. So this is another way for us to understand the independence and the control that the Lord has over all of us. But I'm very excited for this, and I invite Suresh ji to take the screen and then start the description of the Jnana Vijnana Yoga for the first three shlokas. Namaskara.
Thank you, Venkiji. If you could stop sharing, then I'll share my screen.
Okay, let me figure out how to do that. Stop share. Oh. Did it stop?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So thanks, Venkiji, for that introduction. We'll now get into chapter 7. And here are a few prayers. As Venkiji said, he will recite the whole of it, and I will go through these things. Jnane virage haribhakti bhave dhriti sthiti prana baleshu yoge buddhau cha nanyo hanumat samanaha puman kadachit vachakaschaneva yat yasya trinyaditani vedavachane rupani divyanyalam but taddarshanamitthameva nihitam devasya bhargo mahat vayo ramamachonayam prathamakam pruksam dvitiyam vapuhu madhvo yastu trutiyameta maduna ग्रंथकृतः केशवे अज्ञानविस्मृतिभ्रान्ति संशयापस्मृतिक्षयः तन्द्राकम्पवचः कौण्ठ्य मुखाये चेन्द्रियोद्भवाः दोषास्ते नाशमायान्ति राघवेन्द्रप्रसादतः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः. And the reason I thought we'll go through all of this is perhaps, as Venkiji said, we are going to make a transition from how to be knowing to what to be knowing. And for us to make sure that we go through this journey of what we should be knowing, perhaps I guess we need all of it. We need to the best of the wishes from all our gurus and all the lords, so that we are able to comprehend the teaching that Krishna is going to give us in this shatka to our own extent, such that we carry this journey forward. So what is it that we are going to be talking about? As Venkiji mentioned, we are getting into the second shatka. Now, Bhagavad Gita, as we know, is the second of the third prasthanas. And so from chapter 1 to 6, the first shatka is known as the sadhana adhyaya or the upasana adhyaya. So here, Krishna has talked us about karma. What does he mean by karma? He's talked about dhyana, and he has declared the unequivocal supremacy of jnana. And of course, basically the way what Krishna has told us is how do we do the life of work, which is externally manifest, which is dedication into whatever we do, and how do we live the life of renunciation, which is internally manifest, which is the life of dispassion. And these two things, a confluence of dedication and dispassion, will then set a stage for us so that we are in a state where we should be able to grasp the rest of the teaching that is going to come from Krishna in this Shatka, which is the Jnana Yoga. So he ended the sixth chapter saying, Shraddhavan bhajate yomam seme yukta tamamataha. So you need bhakti and you need Shraddha. Now, I've told you all of this, and very nicely he starts the second chapter, the next Shatka. He's going to change the subject here. So as a wonderful teacher, he just summarizes the entire first Shatka by saying, Maya sakta manaf partha yogam yunjan madashraya. So what is Krishna saying there? Is what we will try and decipher. But before we get into that shloka per se, a couple of slides before that, just to recap and say, thus far, Krishna has declared the supremacy of knowledge. He has told us the means of achieving, and which we just said is the confluence of dedication and dispassion. He's told us that no action is impossible. As long as you're alive, the very definition of life is action. I mean, there cannot be no action. And this action needs to be purposeful, assigned action without any association with the outcome, with the result of the action, and to be performed in such a way that it becomes spontaneous. So that's what he's told us about doing something, which Acharya beautifully defines the word karma. Nana jana shushrusha. But a basic definition of being a sentient being, a human being, is that one has to do nana jana shushrusha. I mean, God's gifted us this human life, and it is a tax. It's our duty to be able to be doing this karma just as a return to the gift that Bhagavan has given us in the form of this human birth. So that's one aspect. The other aspect, Krishna told us very clearly, is to know who is in control. Am I being controlled by the external senses, by the senses and the sense interactions with the material objects that are taking place? Or am I controlling my senses such that I dictate the outcome of the interaction that my sense organs do with the material interactions? And the third question, which Krishna tells us very clearly to be aware of, is who is the doer? Am I the doer, or what's my agency of doership? I mean, what's my role in this entire doership? And just to remind ourselves, in 11th chapter, Krishna, he just tells us, Mayaivaite mihata purvameva nimitta matram bhavasavya sachin. You are just a nimitta. You are whatever needs to be done. My dear friend, I've already done it, is what Krishna will tell us as we go further in chapter 11. So the way sometimes it does come, when you put it together, it seems to be saying that what Krishna is telling is whatever you can interact and know easily, right? Dissociate with them, dislike them. What is not very apparent, that, what's my role in doership, jiva kartrutva, am I being controlled? I know my experience is that I am doing it. Things that I can easily perhaps comprehend. He's saying, this is not easily known about me being a nimitta, but like these aspects which are not easily known, and dislike things which are easily known. Mind, as we know, is not an independent decision maker. It only reacts. But then how can it contemplate on something that is unknown? Krishna is telling us like what is not known. So how is it that the mind is going to comprehend on something which is not so easily known to us? So maybe that is the knowledge that Krishna is likely to impart as we move forward. But before we get there, a couple of things, someone from background perspective, a couple of thoughts about knowledge and knowing. Madhuji is taking us through in the Upanishad classes, and beautifully illustrating, telling us what knowledge is. What I did was I asked Copilot to define knowledge for me, and I got a full paragraph of defining of what knowledge is. And similarly, I'd asked a question as what knowing is. If you just see, it says knowledge is the understanding, awareness, or familiarity. And then this could be either through education, through discovery, through experience. And it also further goes on to say it could be either explicit knowledge, which is easily articulated and shared, or it is implicit tactic knowledge, which is intuitive, which is experiential, and which is perhaps hard to express. Well, not very different, I guess, from what we've been learning, that there are two types of knowledge. There is vritti jnana and there is swarupa jnana. Vritti jnana is antahkarana vritti phala, which is the knowledge which we acquire because of our sense organs doing their duties, which is interacting with the material objects as they're all looking outside. Swarupa jnana is what we obtain as a deployment of our subtle senses, which is looking inwards, which is the non-material knowledge, which is aparoksha jnana, which is what we are saying is intuitive or which is within. So, but Acharya defines knowledge as we just learnt in previous classes. Is knowledge, the true knowledge is that which enables us knowing an object as is. The one that provides yathartha jnana of an object is the true knowledge. And then when when I say I know something, what is it that I'm meaning? I mean, is it to say that I know exactly what it is as it is? So when it comes to knowing, I mean, it has components like justified true belief. And it's looked like redundancy there. There's belief, there is true, and there is justification for that. So it has these three components which are built into it. And so how do I know that the intuitive knowledge that I am gaining is justified, it's true, and I should believe in it? And that's where the role of Sakshi perhaps comes, which, accepts only what is true. So to know this, right, we're talking about knowledge. We talked about dhyana. So to be doing dhyana, there needs to be a dhyaya. What am I going to be contemplating upon? I need to sit straight. I need to be at the right place. I need to focus. But what is it that I'm going to, what is a dhyaya? And I am the dhyatru, and there is dhyana. For dhyana to take place, there needs to be a dhyatru who contemplates on a dhyaya. And similarly, for acquisition of jnana, for acquisition of knowledge, for acquisition of jnana, there needs to be a jnatru who is willing to tread this path, and there has to be a jneya, there has to be an object about which I need to acquire knowledge. Knowledge does not exist in vacuum. So that's the knowledge that perhaps we are going to be dealing with. And very beautifully, at the end of this Shatka, when it comes to 13th chapter, when the third Shatka begins, Krishna actually summarizes in a very beautiful manner when he says, Jyotisham apita jyotihi tamasah paramuchyate jnanam jneyam jnanagamyam hrudi sarvasya vishtitim. What is this jnana? What is this? This is hrudi sarva vishtit. It is very much in your own heart. And it's residing within you. And that is jnana, that is jneya, that is jnanagamyam. That is the knowledge. And what is this knowledge? That knowledge is Krishna himself, because he is jnananandamaya. I mean, he is jnanananda, so he is the knowledge himself. And therefore, he is the one that is to be known. He is the jneya, and he is the embodiment of knowledge, and it's also the objective of knowledge. So that's the knowledge, and that's what is knowing going to be all about as we move into this Shatka. So let's get into the seventh chapter per se now. Om Sri Paramatmane Namaha. Saptamodhyayah Jnana Vijnana Yoga. So the first shloka there, Krishna says, Mayasaktamanah Partha Yogam Yunjan Madashreyaha Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yatha Jnasasi Tachrunu. So superficial reading, these are a group of words which seems very simple. Mai asakta manaha partha, put your mind into me. Yogam yunjan, maya madashreyaha, surrender unto me. Practice the yoga that I have been told. Asamshayam samagram mam, without leaving any doubt in its entire comprehensive, in its entirety, I, yathajnasasi, in the way that you need to understand, is what you will hear from me and you will understand. So that's the simple meaning of what the shloka says. But each of those words within themselves pack a ton of information and knowledge. And we'll try to get into some of those in the subsequent slides. Maya sakta manaf partha. So Krishna is saying asakta manaf partha. So what is sakti? Sakti means association. Asakti is non-association. Asakti is permanent association. So associate your mind with me seems to be the indication that Lord Krishna is giving. Then and this association is permanent. This is not transactional association. This is not the association when we say Sankat Vanda Venkataramana. So I have a job interview day after tomorrow, and Krishna, if you make sure that I get the job, maybe I'll visit the nearest temple and put 500 rupees into the hundi there. No, this is not that. So Krishna here is talking about a permanent association. Sakti also means bhakti. We'll come to that in a subsequent slides. So again, for this association to be permanent, for this association to be second nature, just grahana is not enough. Just understanding is not enough. More often, almost always, perhaps when Madhuji is teaching the Upanishads, it all seems so simple and very easy as he illustrates. But then when many a times he pauses and asks a question, at least I find myself scratching my brain. When was that? When was it even talked about it? So just grahana, understanding as it is being said is not enough. One needs to be able to imbibe it. And that is what Krishna is talking. And once, if we tread in this path as very wonderfully illustrated in Amrita Mantana, is when you start getting educated, when you start knowing, there are immediate rewards. You will get some gratification as you know a few things, because perhaps you know more than what people around you know, and there is recognition, there is some rewards that generally start coming in, and maybe one could just stop there. But if one continues this journey further, it leads to doubts. It leads to internal conflicts. Because then you start knowing a few things, you know a few things more deeper, you don't know a few things as much. So there seems to be apparent conflicts and doubts starts arising. And if one does not give up and one continues to pursue this further, then all doubts will disappear and one will get the Yathartha Jnana. So that's the journey which Krishna is talking about. So Maya Sakta Manaf Partha, associate your mind in me, and then do what? Then Yogam Yunjan, then put into practice, tuning your mind into me, put into practice what I have told you. What are those things? Know about your doership, control your mind, do the things as second nature with dispassion and dedication. And is that enough? Perhaps no. And he says one more thing, Mai Ashraya. And while you do it, make sure that you surrender unto me. And know that I am the controller. Now this is so we have to get into we should get into his sharana. So what does that mean? It is rakshatityeva vishwasa. So it's fundamentally, it is, Bandanji explains this with a very, very nice example of a child. The first resort of child in case of anxiety, in case of danger, in case of happiness or anything, is the child's mother. So the child runs into the arms of the mother with complete conviction. There is no doubt in the child's mind that mother is the sole savior, no matter what. The child doesn't need any explanation, no justification that mother is going to protect me, mother is going to take care of me. Yoga kshemam vahamyam. So that is the conviction, that's the belief which this child has on its mother. That's what perhaps Krishna is saying. That's the kind of belief we need to have in the Lord. Not think of him only when we think it's beyond my capacity. It is like Swayambhu Manu who says, who goes to Narayana as the first resort and then praise to him. So surrendering unto the Lord with complete dedication and association of the mind and practicing what he has put is the first pankti of the first shloka here, which is Maya Sakta Manah Partha Yogam Yunjan Madashraya. And very appropriately here, I thought this was, I just picked this up. Yachapnoti yadadatte yasmin pashyati yasmin shrunoti. Yes, the jiva is active. This is affirmation of the fact that I am active, that I am saying something, I am understanding something, I am doing something, I am seeing something, I am hearing something. But I should not forget that it is only by the grace of God that all of this is happening. And perhaps that information is what helps us into the surrender posture that one needs to get into. And if we do that, he says, asamshayam samagram mam yathad jnasasi tachrunu. If you are able to do that, Partha, tachrunu, what you will hear from me, this is what you're going to hear from me, is yatha, as per your capacity and as to the extent that you can comprehend, you're going to get the knowledge from me. And there are two words that come here, asamshayam and samagram. And you will find some discussion about this in literature as to whether these are adverbs or these are adjectives. Are asamshayan and samagram related to mam, or are they related to jnasasi? So what does samagram mean? Agram samprapyatam. So this is, you have reached the pinnacle. It's like saying brimful, right? So samagram in the sense that to the extent that you can, to the extent the cup of your knowledge can hold. This is what Krishna is saying when he says samagram. Because we'll see later in 11th chapter again, Arjuna is looking at the Vishwarupa Darshana of the Lord and he's saying, Pashyami tvam sarvatonanta rupam nantam na madhyam na punastavadim. Where is the question of seeing the middle? I'm not saying either ends of it. So I can't figure out what is even the vision of the Lord is so, is so extensive. Where is the question of understanding the Lord in completeness? So the complete samagram here clearly denotes to the ability, one's ability to comprehend, and that will be complete, and whatever that is there will be perfect, and it will be done in such a way that there is no residual doubt left. Asamshayam. So you will not have any residual doubt. So Krishna is making some very bold declarations here, and he's saying, I've taught you the first shatka, fix your mind in me, practice what you are, and you will hear what you need to hear, in which is comprehensive and in a manner that you will fully understand without any doubt left. And as we move to the But some questions there before we go into the next verse. But has not Krishna already told us about himself? I mean, we've said that when we did sixth chapter as well, that there is no scope for redundancy in Vyasa's teaching, right? There's no single syllable that comes in here which is meaningless or is a placeholder. And if Krishna has already told us what is what more is he going to say? He's told us in second chapter, Natveva ham jatu nasam. Never was there a time when I did not exist, you did not exist, nor will ever be a time when both of us will not be existing. Indriyani paranyahu, indriyartebhya param manaha. I mean, he's talked about the superiority of the soul above the intellect, which is above the mind, which is superior to gross body. He's talked about his own yoga maya, ajopi sannavyayatma. I mean, he says, Sambhavam Atma Maya. I mean, I manifest, though I am unborn, I manifest in my avatars here. I mean, and that's because of my Achintya Adbhuta Shakti, I mean, Aishwarya Shakti. I mean, so he's talked about himself. He's also talked about the fact that if you realize me as the Bhoktaram, as the Suhurdam Sarva Bhutanam, as the selfless friend of all living beings, such people will attain peace. It's also talked about, Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma Sarvatra Samadarshana. I mean, one should be that everything is present in him and he is present in everything. So he's talked enough about himself. But then whatever else he's going to tell us about himself now is that redundancy is a question. And the other question, he said, erase all doubt. I know there should be no doubt left in me. But if we ask the question of the definition of God, and who is the person who understands the God best amongst all the jivas, it is perhaps the Brahma Vayu who have the maximum comprehension of, I mean, leaving aside Lakshmi, who comes in a different fold amongst the jivas, amongst the mortals, so to say. It is the Brahma Vayu who have the maximum ability to comprehend. And even for them, Yo Devanam Namada Eka Evam Tam Samprashnam Bhuvana Yatyanya. I mean, even for them, having understood everything that needs to be understood, what still remains as a question mark is God. So that seems to be the message here. So what is it that Krishna is going to tell us? And how is it that all doubts are going to be erased when Krishna teaches us these things is what this Shatka is going to be perhaps dealing with as we move forward, enabling us to comprehend to the extent that we can. And this is what Krishna tries to tell us in the next shloka when he says, Jnanam teham savidjnanam idam vakshamya sheshatah yajnatva neya bhuyonyat jnatavyam avashishyate. So he's basically saying that once you know this, my dear friend, there will be nothing left more for you to be knowing. Just thought we'll pause there for a minute and just take a slightly detour and look at these two instances that we have learnt in our Upanishad classes. There is one instance where there is this chap who is just returned from the best university in the universe, having secured the highest possible qualifications there, coming out with flying colors, and meets his father and stabda evaya. He's just wondering, should I bow down and touch my father's feet, because this guy never had a chance to attend these universities. I have learned and I had the chance to learn, this guy has never learned anything, so I am perhaps much more knowledgeable. And would it be right for me to touch his feet? Is the kind of egoistic position that this person comes in. And the father, Uddalaka, knows this, that Shvetakita needs to be straightened, and asks him a question and says, Ena shrutam shrutam bhavatva matam mata vijnatam vijnanamiti. So that's one question that Uddalaka is actually asking someone to say that, guy, you need to be grounded. Don't think too much about yourself. There's some repair work needs to be done with you. On the other side, there is this Mahayadnika. I mean, he's been doing yajnas, performing yajnas, and his lure for knowledge with all humility, comes in and prays to seek more information from Angirisa, say, asking the question, Yasmin Vijñate Sarvamidam Vijñatam. I mean, what is it that if I know, there is nothing more known to be known? What is it? Hearing which means that all that is to be heard has been heard. Thinking about which means all that is to be thought of has been thought of. Or knowing which means all that has to be known has been known. And Krishna is saying, I am going to tell you that. And once I tell you that, once you imbibe that, there is nothing more that is left for you to be known. So that's the I thought so the idea there was, I mean, if you know the core, if you understand the core, the implications become much easier to follow. The moola is what one needs to be chasing, and Acharya very rightly calls his own works as Sarva Moola Grantha. So two things Krishna has said: Jnana, Savidjnanam. So Vijnana and Jnana. So it's important to keep that in the mind. Jnana perhaps is when I switch on the power button on my remote, my television, is switched on, and I can see pictures there. But how does this actually happen? What's the communication between my pressing the button and the television such that, it starts showing me pictures? Where does it receive the pictures from? Is perhaps Vijnana. So there is Jnana and there is Vijnana. And when Krishna is using Vijnana here, he is talking about Vilakshana. So he is talking about exclusive knowledge, which is based on your individual capacity, is what Krishna is saying. Krishna is telling Arjuna, because we could also mean Viparita Jnana, Viruddha, Vishesha, or we could mean different things as well. And then that's exactly what, having told all of this, and again in chapter 13, Krishna just summarizes the whole thing and he says, Eta jnana miti proktam ajnanam yadatonyatha. My dear friend, I would have in this second shatka told you what constitutes knowledge and what are the aids of knowledge. Other than that, all else is neither knowledge nor an aid for it. So that is what we are going to be dealing in this shatka. Now, this jnana is necessary, but is it also sufficient is the next question that comes up. And again, Krishna makes it very clear in the 11th chapter. He says, Naham vedairna tapasa nadanena na chejjaya shakya eam vido drashtuvanasi mamyatha bhaktyatvananyaya shakyaha ahamemam vidorjuna jnatum drashtum cha tatmena praveshtum cha parantapa. O Parantapa, O conqueror of all enemies, O conqueror of your own indriyas. I mean, what is fundamental necessity is there needs to be unperturbed devotion. So this entire jnana has to manifest itself into bhakti. So he's talked about karma yoga. He's talked about dhyana yoga. Now he's going to talk about jnana yoga, which then imbibes which then integrates dhyana karma into jnana, and that transcends into bhakti yoga, and that is the way forward towards progressing in this line that we have chosen. So what is bhakti? And Madhuji has told us innumerable number of times the Jayatirtha's definition of bhakti. Parameshwara Bhaktir Nama Niravadika Ananta Anavadya Kalyana Guna Tattva Jnana Purvakaha Swatmatmiya Samasta Vastubhyopyananta Gunadhikontaraya Sahasrenapya Pratibadha Nirantara Prema Pravaha. So that is what Jayatirtha defines bhakti as. There needs to be transcendental understanding, firm conviction of the Lord's infinite perfections, His freedom from all blemishes. And that attachment with the Lord needs to be the most superior one, much above the love for oneself, the love for family, the love for possessions. Dependence on the Supreme, that we are completely dependent on the Lord, and this needs to be continuous and unwavering. So that is what Krishna has told us, then okay, now Krishna is going to tell us all this. We will dedicatedly listen, try and understand, comprehend second chapter, and now tell us what's the duration of this course, how long it's going to take for us to learn this. That comes the most natural question. And I remember asking this question to my own professor when I enrolled for PhD, and the answer I got was depends. Well, then here's the answer that Krishna is giving Arjuna. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatataamapi siddhanam kaschinmam vetti tattvataha. So I just thought, so we know when the word sahasra or dasha is used, it is indicative of, it's not 100 or 1,000, it is hundreds or thousands. It's indicative of the multiplicative that's implied when those words are used. So if 100 crore people, of the 100 crore people, there are perhaps 10 lakh who make an attempt towards Siddhi. And maybe 1,000 of them actually acquire Siddhi. And of the 1,000 that acquire this, there's perhaps only one who actually understands me, who comes to me. So there is no marketing. There is no trying to lure somebody into this path. This is bare fact which Krishna is telling us that this is not going to be easy. We've seen Kshurasya Dhara, Nishita Durgam Patha. So this is like walking on the edge of the sword. For you to be making choices between what is prayers and what is shreyas. And in your mind, we have seen Uddharedatmanam, Uddharedatmanatmanam, Atmanamava Sadayet, Atmaiva Yatmano Bandhu, Atmaiva Ripuratma. Your mind is your foe. Your mind can be your worst foe. It can be your best friend. Therefore, you need to have the conviction to control your mind. And as we've seen in Katha, arise, awake is the advice that is given. And be very careful when you tread this path, because this transmigration is like walking on the edge of the sword. So enroll if you will. Now, is this something to put in a fear? Absolutely no. It is being factful to say that this is essential for us as we move forward. This is not going to be easy. This is going to be difficult. And why is it going to be difficult? Arjuna has asked those questions on our behalf. He said, Chanchalanni Manak Krishna Pramati Balamadhridam. I mean, this mind is, this is Bala, this is Dhrida, it is Chanchala. I mean, what are you talking about, Krishna? He's asked this question. And he's also asked the question, as Venkaji did refer to, Apraptya Yoga Samsiddham Kam Gatim Krishna Gachitim. What happens to those, I can't do when I start, but I'm going to get lost. You are saying it's so complicated. It's like walking on the edge of the sword. What happens to me? So Krishna has answered these questions, but the choice is to be made. Do we want to get into a virtuous cycle, or it's possible that we might get into a vicious cycle here? And in second chapter, Krishna has actually alluded to say, he said, Dhyayate Vishayan Pumsaha Sangaste Shupajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kamat Krodho Vijayate Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha Sammohat Smriti Vibhramaha Sputir Brahmshat Buddhinasho Buddhinashat Pranashyati. So that's the vicious cycle that we can get into. But if we can control our mind, then Prasade Sarva Dukham, all dukkha, everything is going to disappear, and we will get into a virtuous cycle that will constantly keep elevating us. And then whatever effort that we put into, Purvabhyasena tenaiva, it's not going to disappear, my friend. And then every little that effort that you put, it reinforces your conviction, even to the extent that you will be drawn into this involuntarily. And like we talked about in chapter 6, Marjarat Kishora Nyaya. I mean, that's what Bananji says, depicts this. It's like the kitten that are just born are blind. And like the mother cat takes care of its blind kitten and takes them to safety and then chaperones it towards its growth, so will the Lord chaperone us through this journey, which is so difficult, which is which isn't easy. But if we do that effort, Krishna is saying, I am there. I am going to take care of you and to take you forward. So that is the context as we get into the content into this chapter. And I'll just finish this again with the prayer towards the bhakti that we need to acquire towards Govinda. मातर में मातरिश्वन पितरतुलगुरो भ्रातृष्टाप्त बंधो स्वामिन् सर्वांतरात्मन् नजर जरयति जन्मभृत्यामयानां गोविंदे देहि भक्तिं भवति च भगवन् ऊर्जितां निर्निमित्तां निर्व्याज्यां निश्चलां सद्गुणगण बृहतीं शाश्वती माशुदेव. So let's pray to be chaperoned through this Jnana Vijnana Yoga. And what is this Jnana? What is this Jnana Vijnana that Krishna is going to be talking about is what Venkiji will take us through in the next session. So Venkiji, over to you, and I will stop sharing my screen.
Thank you very much. Give me 1 second. Let me see how to share it again. Okay. Please tell me if you can see it. Hello, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see the screen. Thank you.
I could listen all day to Suresh ji, but I also appreciate the opportunity to talk and then present a few of my views as well. And so it is the case that folks can go to multiple sources and get the pratipadartha. So rather than go through each word's pratipadartha, I figured it might be a good idea to give a complete view and then go into the depths as we go along. So Bhagavan Krishna, he has now praised Jnana. He has now praised the adverbial thing that he has said, Samagram Asheshataha. He's saying you can understand it to your extent without any remaining stuff. And then he's also tried to explain the amount of difficulty that you will need to go through to get this jnana and get this vijnana and then make yourself soar spiritually. But he also has given a lot of assurance. Now, understanding that, the Bhagavan now, within 4 shlokas, gives a complete gist of whatever it is that he wants to say as he is going forward. So remember, this is the second shatka, begins with Jnana Vijnana Yoga and is ultimately going to end in Bhakti Yoga, right? From 7th chapter to 12th chapter. So he is giving and he's seeding a lot of different ideas even in the first few shlokas that Bhagavan Krishna is speaking. And that is his style. He has what we would call a spiraling curriculum. Not for him describing everything and then going to the next topic. He wants to kind of like have people iterate and understand it again and again in a better and better and finer way. So let's see how he does that. So bhumirapo nalo vayu khammano buddhirevacha ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakritirashtadhaha is how he starts. So, Swamiji has quoted Sriman Madhvacharya as saying, Bhagavan is Veda Vyasa. Vyasa meaning classifier. So Bhagavan is so fond of classifying that he is always wanting to show how many ways the things are, just so that the classification process becomes easier and easier for his students to understand. So he is giving here an 8-fold classification. In fact, this classification could be 8-fold, it could be 9-fold, it could be 19-fold, it could be 24-fold in the ultimate extent. But let me explain that as we go along. Bhumihi, apaha, analaha, vayuhu, kham. So these are the Pancha Mahabhutas. So earth, water, fire, air, ether. And the reason why the Bhagavan begins this way, I think, is because this is something which is very commonly viewed. It is the most commonly available for his devotees to begin with. And so therefore, he has begun it with this Panchabhautika Prapancha. Of course, we need to keep track of all the Tattvabhimani Devatas that are associated with it and the Tattvas that are associated with it. So do not think that earth is just a piece of mud. Think of earth as the Bhumi and the Abhimani Devatas associated with it. Up, same way. Fire, same way. Air, same way. And then the space, which is the ether, the same way. And then you have the Manas Tattva and Buddhi Tattva and Ahankara Tattva. So the Manas Tattva is Manasu, Buddhi, Chitta, Chetana, and Ahankara. But he is explaining some of the things that are very easily available to you. The Manas, ito va, ato va. Shall I do it? Shall I not do it? That's very commonly known to people. Thought, Buddhi, which is intelligence, is also known. I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to stick with that decision. And then Ahankara, the individuation, the ego, the Ahankara that tells you of the awareness of yourself. Raghavendra Swamiji and Acharya, both of them say, not only do you need to think of this as Ahankara, but it is the Mahat Tattva as well that is included in here, Avyakta Tattva as well. And so these are all the Jada Tattvas that are instituted here, as well as the Tattvabhimani Devatas associated with it, and also the Jivas that are caught up in these Jada Chetana Mishrita Samsara. And so he's describing these as 8 forms of which his Prakriti is divided. My Prakriti is what he's saying. Me Prakriti. What does he mean by the word me Prakriti? It doesn't mean that he is himself dividing it up into 8 parts. No, that's not what is the idea. The idea is my Prakriti, the Prakriti that is under my control. This is a description of what he is having under his control. So my Prakriti, the Prakriti which is completely dependent on me, the Prakriti that I am duty bound, or I am in my own free will bound to protect, because the Lord is the only one who is self-dependent. Everything else is dependent on him, Swatantra, right? And so that is what he is describing. Then in the next verse, he is describing apareyam iti stvanyaha prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhutam mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat. If there is one thing that the Lord is fond of classifying, the Veda Vyasa, the Lord is also very, very fond of declaring one as bigger than the other or as greater than the other. So the Lord in the second shloka itself starts the concept of Taratamya. Taratamya, it is the bhava that describes the hierarchy of elements within. And so the Lord is very clear in his mind that there is bhinnatva, and there is taratamyatva. And that's how he is describing with the word param. And you'll see that this param word keeps coming again and again and again and again. And we'll talk about it as we go through. Apareyam itihi tu anyaha. This apareyam iti, this one is apara. Apara meaning lower. Prakritim. My Prakriti also has a apara Prakriti. Apara Prakriti meaning a much more elevated Prakriti, which is higher Prakriti. And that Prakriti which is very high is Jiva Bhutam, meaning it's the sustainer of all. It is the life force of all. Jiva Bhuta, because the Bhutas there cannot survive anywhere without this. Mahabaho, Yayedam Dharyate Jagat. This one very powerful tattva is holding up the entire world, hence the word Mahabaho. So I'm always fascinated about why Sri Krishna uses the words for Arjuna. In this case, he's talking about the strength to be able to lift and dharana shakti of the entire Jagat. So you are a Mahabaho. Think about the many millions of times or many infinite times that this other Shakti is that is able to dharyate jagat, lift up the entire world and hold the entire world. And so in this particular case, the Param Prakriti, Para Prakriti is Sri Lakshmi Devi herself, and by extension, it is the Mukta Jivas as well. And so the Mukta Jivas and Lakshmi Devi together are what are called as the Para Prakriti. Lakshmi Devi herself is the Chit Prakriti. Chit Prakriti meaning the Abhimani Devata of and the Niyamana Devata of the entire Prakriti. And then he says in the third shloka, Etadyoni bhutani sarvani ityupadharaya aham kritsnasya jagataha prabhavaha pralayastatha. what he's meaning by that is that all beings, sarvani bhutani, which means mukta jivas, amukta jivas, jada prakriti, and all of these jivas are equally being upheld by me. And I am the origination and the dissolution. And I am also the source and the end of this world, is what he's saying. Why he needs to say that is because he already has described the Prakriti as Dharyate Jagat. The Prakriti is upholding the entire world. If the Prakriti is upholding the entire world and I am the Lord of Prakriti, somebody may think that this is sort of like a deist interpretation. So there is these American founding fathers, and a lot of them were deists. What do these deists think? These deists think the God created the world and then sort of like left it to itself, like a clock. He set it up and then set it in motion, and then the world is just working around. There is no need for God to come in and intervene at any given point in time because there is no frictive force in the universe. So the universe is operating without regard to the Lord at this exact moment in time. And the Lord is saying, no, that's not how it goes. Every single entity is completely and totally dependent on me at all times. So there is no time component where the Lord is not in control of this whole entire universe. And not only is he the controller of this whole entire universe, one of the things that he is saying is he's the enjoyer of the entire universe. And then you will see GVG talking about Rasoham Apsu Kaunteya. So he's going to be talking about the Swakya Rasa, the rasa that is the Lord's own, which he is able to enjoy, which he is enjoying. So the question that you need to ask yourself is, how can the Lord enjoy something at a particular point in time? The Lord cannot enjoy anything at a particular point in time, because if he's enjoying something at a particular point in time, meaning he didn't have it before or didn't enjoy it before. And that's a very subtle point that the Lord is saying, that the Lord is beyond time. So he has all the past, present, and future ability to experience and enjoy all at the exact same time. And that's why he is Vilakshana. All of the other entities are collected within this time process other than Lakshmi Devi. So they have to experience time individually, whereas Lakshmi Devi and Paramatma are beyond time. And all of this will become clearer as I go through a little bit of animation to explain. And then finally, the pièce de resistance of this sloka is Matta Paratarannanyat Kinchidasti Dhananjaya Mai Sarvamidam Protam Sutre Manigana Yuva. He really loves the word Sarvam, isn't it? He keeps saying the word Sarva in multiple places because Sarvam Vishwam, the whole world, is his. And that's the reason why he is one of those a few people who can actually say Sarvam and actually mean it literally Sarvam. And so therefore he's saying Mattaha, other than me, Nanyat, nobody else is higher. And then he's saying it is almost like a set of beads that are there on a string. And so the string, what he is trying to say is him. He is Atyanta Vilakshana. He is there in every single entity. And then the string is the one that is holding the entire universe together. So not only is the Prakriti dependent on him, the Apara and Para and Chit Prakritis are all dependent on him. And he is the one who is not only the Prabhava and Pralaya, meaning the source and the dissolution, but he also is saying that he is the head of Sarga, which means Sthiti. So, Jnana, Jnana, Bandha, Moksha, Niyamana, all of that, the Ashtavidha Vyapara is done by Krishna. And so this is one of the reasons why he probably likes the Ashta, because there is so many things all divided into 8. And we will see the Lord's forms themselves are in 8s as well, right? So you will have Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. So Vishwa, Tejasa, Prajna, Turiya, Atma, Antaratma, Paramatma, Jnanatma. So those are the 8 forms of the Lord. Om Namo Narayana. So the Ashta Mula Mantra is the 8-vidha form. The Omkara is itself declared into 8-vidha, Ashtavidha forms. And so this Ashta is a very favorite way to describe a number of attributes. and the avatar and the forms of the god, which are in the form of Vishwa Tejasa Prajna Turyatma Antaratma Paramatma Dhyanatma, are going to make a honorable presence in the next couple of slides that I'm going to show. So with this understanding, let us try to understand it a little bit in layman's terms. So this is the explanation. By the way, the English translation here is from Subbarao, which I encourage everyone to look at. And then, so why is this not moving? Okay, so now I'm going to use the three shlokas that are presented there and present to you a taxonomy of what the spiritual world is. Taxonomy, again, like I said, Vyasatva, classification. Those are like really favorite for Veda Vyasa. His name is itself a classifier. So we begin with Apara Prakriti. Apara Prakriti is what, as I just said, it includes all of the Jada and it includes all of the Jivas in Sansara. So that includes Brahma and Trina, all of it. So it includes Brahma and Kali in all of those. And so that is what the Apara Prakriti is. And it is Sattva Rajas Tamatmaka Prakriti. There is Sattva Rajas Tamas intensely going and intermixing and coming back out. And that is what is the nature of the Prakriti. Then you have the Para Prakriti. The Para Prakriti is of couple of kinds. Chit Prakriti, which is Sri Mahalakshmi Devi, and then all the Mukta Jivas. Mukta Jivas and Chit Prakriti together are the higher form of Prakriti. All the Jivas and the Jada in the Sansara are all the Apara kind of Prakriti. And so that's why I indicated that with the slight difference in the sizes, and keep focus on the color because the color kind of keeps through as we go through. And then what does this Apara Prakriti mean? Bhagwan Krishna has described in 8 ways. Like I said, it could be 24 ways. So it begins with Avyakta Mahat Hankara Buddhi Manas, the Panchabhutas, the Pancha Tanmatras, the Pancha Jnanendriyas, the Pancha Karmendriyas, all of that classification, you should keep it in mind. And then it also includes all of the Satvika, Rajasa, Tamasika Jivas. And it includes all of the Jivas from Brahma up to Trina, including Kali. We then go into Paraprakriti. The Paraprakriti is what? Paraprakriti is Mahalakshmi Devi. Why are we singling out Mahalakshmi? Because she is Nitya Mukta. Because she is Nitya Mukta, she has the highest amount of jnana because she had infinitely high amount of jnana right from the beginning. Which is the reason why the Lord loves her the most, because the Lord is going to say later, Jnani to Atmaiva me matim. So Lord says Jnani is the most loved of him, beloved of him, which is the reason why the Lord is the most beloved of Lakshmi Devi. Why? Because she is the highest Jnani that is available. And then one other thing is, because she is Nitya Mukta, she is always in the native form, always with Vishnu, which is what is called as Samana. That's why she's called Samana. And then finally, she is the most powerful after Vishnu. Why? Because we already know Mahabahu, Arjuna, you're having all powerful arms and everything, but the most powerful is Lakshmi Devi. And we hear it in Shruti after Shruti about Lakshmi Devi, especially in the Amrani Sukta and other places. And after that, the Lord is so possessive of her that he is actually calling out as my Prakriti, my Prakriti. My Prakriti is the one which is divided into so many different ways. And so therefore, the Lord has a special place for Lakshmi Devi. Lakshmi Devi has all of her place for the Lord, and she is eternally knowledgeable and eternally dependent on the Lord, which is also the reason why they have what we call a Pati-Patni relationship. A Pati in Vishnu Tattva Viniraya Tika, the Jayatirtha Muni sort of gives an indication that a Pati, the Patitva Lakshana is to protect somebody who is already having the Jnana. So the wife has the Jnana but is then protected by the husband. And the Pita relationship is protecting somebody who doesn't have the Jnana until they have the Jnana and then keep protecting them. And so that's why all the Jivas, other than Lakshmi Devi, are the Putra relationship, or the Bhagavan has the Pita relationship to them. So that's why Patim Pati, Pitam Patim is how Jayatirtha Muni actually describes the Lord in his commentary as he begins it. And by the way, by association, we also now include the Mukta Jivas. Um, and why does the Lord love Mukta Jivas? Because just now, Suresh ji has gone through this whole calculus, right? What was it? 100 crore people. There is like one person who is like really good. So these are Mukta Jivas. They are the best of the best of the best who actually were able to sort of like go through that whole entire calculus, finish the course. So the Lord loves them. The Lord loves Mukta Jivas. The Lord loves Nitya Mukta Lakshmi Devi even more. So that is the relationship and the taxonomy that has been so described in the last 3 or 4 shlokas. And what does that mean? Chit Prakriti is Jiva Bhuta, meaning the Chit Prakriti that we are describing here is sustaining all and holds the entire world up. So that is the importance and the predominance of Lakshmi Devi. But then finally, the Lord also says, Parataraha, and then he's going to describe it in the next shloka, Parataraha, higher than what has been described so far. Paratara. So Tara Tamya. Paratama, he could have said, but he's saying Paratara. It's a comparative degree, and it is Bhagavan Eva. Sarvotamaha Bhagavan Eva. And because he is Paratara, he is Atyanta Vilakshana. Why? Because he is the only one who is self-dependent. Everyone else depends on him. And he is the Prabhava, Sarga, Pralaya, meaning the originator, sustainer, as well as the destroyer. And none of his personal body is used in the creation. So he is a Nimitta Karana, meaning he himself is not undergoing transformations. Because if he is undergoing transformations, he cannot be the Paratara Bhagavan. So he is not undergoing transformation, but there is Jada which is undergoing transformation. And then he's the Sarva Upadana Karana Samrakshaka. He is the Nimitta Karana, meaning he's the efficient cause, and he's the Upadana Karana. So lots of people say, the souls are not created or destroyed, which Natvevaham Jatanasam we know. And then even other people will say that the matter and energy is neither created nor destroyed. So now you have the situation where the matter is neither created nor destroyed, and the souls are also not created nor destroyed. How can it be that both of them are not created nor destroyed? Because they're the property of the Lord. When you have a property of a Lord, who the Lord himself is unchangeable, none of his property also is going to be destroyed in the process. So there is no friction in how the Lord is running the whole entire universe. So that is the simplified taxonomy of the spiritual world. And we haven't even gone in the Vijnana portion of it. This is just the Jnana portion of it. And I know all of us love Upanishads, but I got all of my knowledge from Harikathamritasara before I learned any Upanishad or any Gita or anything. And so I put in a few verses of Harikathamritasara here. I encourage you to go through them. And then there is this beautiful description of Adhara and Adheya, meaning what is the one that is supporting and what is the one that is supported. And the Lord has his incredible ways of doing both. And then there is the Sutranandari, Misini Olagina, Manigalolagiha Sutranandari, meaning the sutra which is there inside the money is also described really beautifully in Harikathamritasara. I encourage you to go through this. And then the Harikathamritasara now starts taking Mattah Parataram Nanyat and starts describing how Swarupadehada Vala Horage, meaning inside the Swarupadeha and outside the Swarupadeha is where the Lord is available. And then he's also describing Sutranamaka Pranapati, meaning Sutranamaka is the Vayudeva and his pati is Bhagavan. And so Sutranamaka Pranana Pati, Sutranamaka Pranapati is how they describe it. And then, of course, in the Bhagavad Gita itself, in the 15th chapter, there is a very elaborate Taratamya that has been described. And in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad as well, in the 3rd chapter, they talk about Sutranamaka Vayu. And so we'll keep it there. And finally, let's go to the last shloka, which the last shloka is the most beautiful shloka that you can have. There's a lot of them. And it's the 7th shloka of the 7th chapter of a Gita, which has 701 shlokas. So it's like numerically, it's an interesting shloka. But the shloka is so beautiful. It says, Mattah Parataram Nanyat Kinchidasti Dhananjaya Mai Sarvamidam Protam Sutre Maniganayuva. Let's look at the words very, very quickly so that we understand the beauty of each and every one of the word, like what Suresh ji said, this is Bhagavan Vedavyasa writing it. And so therefore there shall not be even one syllable which is less useful or not needed. And in fact, every syllable is actually needed and has a special meaning. So Mattaha, he's describing himself for the first time. So the Lord God is saying Mattaha. So instead of saying Ishvara Sarva Bhutana Hriddeshe Arjuna Tishtati, he's saying Mattaha, mine, me. Parataram, and he's using a comparative word, paratara. Than me, nobody is the highest. Nobody is higher. Why he's using comparative? Because the force of the comparative will give the meaning of a superlative. This is very similar to Harif Parataraha in Prameya Navamalika Shloka, isn't it? Satyam Jagat, Sriman Madhvamate, Harif Parataraha. Paratara, in this context, gives the force of a superlative. And then Na Anyat, the reason why he uses the word nanyat is there is a whole bunch of interpretations out there. If he had said there is nothing beyond me, then people would have said something like there is nothing, which is the reason why there is nothing behind him, beyond him, because there is nothing. Because they want to be able to say there is nothing other than the Lord, there is nothing other than Brahma, Brahmaika, they want to be able to say. And so that's why he's actually positing the existence of multiple entities, and he's saying no other entity is kinchit asti, meaning at any time and for all time. Asti is the present tense. Kinchit asti nanyat, all of them together create this force to say that nobody is higher than me. I am the highest. And so therefore, I am the highest for all time. And so that's why the na anyat kinchit together create that force to be able to say that. And then of course he's saying Dhananjaya. We know that he called him Mahabahu, now him calling him as Dhananjaya. Why? Because during the Rajasuya Yajna, Arjuna conquered a lot of wealth. And so now he's saying, Arjuna, we know you're wealthy, but now start understanding my wealth, my wealth. So that's the reason why he's describing Dhananjaya, because his wealth is Sutre Manigana Yuva. All the pearls that he describes the Jivas are his. And so therefore he says, Mai, by me again, first person, Idam Sarvam. Idam, all this. What all this? The whole taxonomy that I just described in the last slide, which is Jiva, Jada, Shri, all of them together, this whole entire creation is Idam Sarvam. Protam, meaning Prakrishtena Otam. Otaf Pota, they say that. So it's Prakrishtena Otam, very well suffused by the Lord and covered by the Lord also. And then Sutre. Sutre, in this particular case, it means Mukhya Prana, Sutra Namaka. It also means Mukhya Prana Pratipadya, which is Lord Hari himself. And in this case, Sutre also could mean Brahma Sutras, for example. In the Brahma Sutras, the Lord's Mahima is very well established. And across the whole entire creation, the Sutra is connecting everything. And then Mani Gana, meaning a collection of pearls, a set of pearls, not just one pearl, not two pearls, but a set of pearls, infinite set of pearls. And then he gives the word Iva. What is the meaning of this? As if by a thread, this entire universe is dependent on me. Why would he say as if? Why is the word Iva present there? And then we'll talk about Iva as Adhama Upama, meaning, when people say, how cold is Alaska? People will say it's freezing. It's actually much, much more than freezing. It is much less than freezing. I mean, the temperature is much, much, much less than freezing. But we say freezing. Why? It is an Adhama Upama. It's a way of explaining a cold without going into greater details. And so that's what we are trying to say, that this is Adhama Upama. So let me explain this with an animation here. Why is this an Adhama Upama, and what is the Lord trying to say? So we begin with the Lord, right? The Lord is Krishna, blue-hued Krishna. He is always present and he's completely self-dependent. Always present and self-dependent and dependent only on Shri Krishna is Lakshmi Devi. And Lakshmi Devi is always present at all time and at all places, Samana. And so she is dependent on the God only. And through Lakshmi Devi and being dependent on the Lord, we have Vayu, Brahma, and the Parashuklatrayas, the Ruju yogis. And these are only dependent on Lakshmi and Narayana. These Ruju yogis, Vayu, for example. And then on top of it, you have other Tattvabhimani devatas, primarily Sheshadeva, for example. And so this is the beautiful example of Vayu Kurma, and then Vishnu Kurma, Vayu Kurma, Shesha Kurma that has been described. And so these are the ones that are holding the universe together. And in this universe, you now have these pearls that are getting strung. And these pearls are sattva jivas, rajasa jivas, and tamasa jivas. From left to right. We have seen this jivas discussion before. And notice how in each of these jivas, you can actually see the immanence of the Lord. So in the Jiva Swarupa itself, the Lord is present. How is he present? In those 8 forms that we just described, Vishwa Tejasa Pradnya Turyatma Antaratma Paramatma Jnanatma, especially the Atma Antaratma forms. By many, and Mulesha, Agresha, there is so many other forms. So with these forms, the Lord is immanent in the soul itself, And then you'll see there is a pravesha or the entry for Vayudeva also. So there is a lot of discussion about whether Vayudeva is inside a soul in this example. And by Harikatamrasara, we can see that there is pravesha for Vayu inside the soul as well. And so the 3 tattvas here are able to penetrate all the way into the soul. All other Tattvabhimani devatas are hung like a pearl around this. The Tattvabhimani devatas cannot penetrate the Lingadeha, and so therefore they are outside and they control the jivas in their own way. And so that's how you have Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, Tamo Gunas. And then finally, you see the Akhanashmasama, the big presence of Vayudeva, and then the big presence, and then the equally big and bad presence of Kali. And the Kali is so tamasika that it's very difficult to even see the Lord through him, whereas the Vayu is so clean. That's why he is called the clean, actually. He's called Shuchi Shat. The Shuchi is Vayu, and he's so clean, they call it Dagdha Patanaya. It's like if a cloth has been burnt and it's just left there, it will be there. And then if you breathe on it, it will just disintegrate. That's how clean his Swarupa Deha is. The Lord just shines through him. And that's why it is said you need to look at this. The other thing about this animation, notice that all of the Atmas, all of the Jivas are of the same size. But Vayudeva has Prakasha Vyapti across. But the Lakshmi and Bhagavan Swarupa is completely different. And so this is basically the way this whole entire thing is held up. But why is it Adham Upama? Is because there is Ananta Brahmandas. This is the today Brahmanda where Vayu Brahma are ruling. There was a Brahmanda before where Vayu Brahmas were also ruling. There is a new Brahmanda that will come, which is Vayu Brahma ruling. And then there is the Mahapralaya that is happening, if you look at it as a timeline as well as a space line. And the Lord is equally present, Lakshmi Devi as well, across the creations, which is the reason why the Lord is called Anantakoti Brahmanda Nayaka and is not controlled by time. The second way is, why is it an Adhama Upama? It is an Adhama Upama also because this is a very incomplete way of describing it unless you start thinking about it really well. And the Lord is inviting you to think about it, because the Lord is not only present inside the Swarupa Deha, he is present inside each of the Tattvabhimani Devatas. Each of the Tattvabhimani Devatas also have other Devatas inside of them. He is present inside of them. So he has this very, very strange and complicated hierarchical view of being present multiple times in multiple places all at the same time. So it's a Achintya Adbhuta Shakti that the Lord has, that I was describing about him being able to experience everything. He is able to experience everything because he is inside everything. Then finally, the beautiful shloka that is there in the Srimad Bhagavata that says, Dravyam kalacha karmascha swabhavo jivayevacha yadanugrahatasanti nasanti yadupekshaya, which means the Lord is the only self-dependent entity in this whole entire universe. If he were to think none of these other entities could exist, but his will is that the other entities exist, and not only exist for all time. And that is the benevolent nature of the Lord, the significant karunya. That's why in Harikathamsara, the second sandhi is itself the karuna sandhi. He need not have done this, but of his own free will and the only will, he has been able to do it. And so that's the reason why the Lord is Sarvadhara, and he's also the Mula Karana, meaning for him there is no cause. With him, all the effects are there. And so therefore, he's the prime cause. He is the eternal sustainer for everyone. He has the protection, he has given protection to every single jiva for existing up until eternity. All the jada is also available through Vikriti, but the jada itself is available across the board. And then he is and Lakshmi Devi are together going across the whole entire time frame. And so it is a very intricate way of looking at the universe, all of which you can logically derive from the axioms that the Lord is starting to say. But he's now going to go even deeper in the next few shlokas. And so I'm going to ask a quick question to Suresh ji to see what we are with respect to time and whether we are able to do GVG today, or would you prefer it to be the next time, and we might be able to give some time for question and answer. Suresh ji, maybe you can speak up.
Thanks, Venkiji. I mean, yeah, as you said, I mean, this could go on, right? I mean, there's so much here. Uh, so I think just in the interest of time, I know GVG has a lot of information to share as well. If it's okay, maybe we could pause here anyway, we have a week more and take the rest of the. I mean, it's a nice segue also. So we're going to get into slightly a more detailed line of thinking as GVG comes in next week. So my suggestion would be that we open up for question and answers and maybe add Madhuji anything more that needs to be added or discussed, and then park the rest of the discussions for next week. And if we run shortage of time, we should be able to figure out as we move forward with the discussions. That is how I thought we should take this forward. Madhu, if you're okay with this.
Sounds absolutely fine because I think GBG, as you said, has got so much information to share. So to me, it looks like chapter 7 probably will look like A, B, and C. Two, three parts is how it looks like. So I think we should delve deep. After all, we are looking at jnana and vijnana. So the vijnana has to be deep. So let's not just skim the surface here. So I completely concur with both Vinkiji and Sureshji. We are assuming that GVG is available next week.
Yes, and I am fine too. No problem. Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you, GVG. Yeah, so GVG is available next week as well. So let's do that. So perhaps maybe we open up for Q&A for the next 8 to 10 minutes. So let's do some Q&As. If folks have pertinent questions, you can send it in the chat forum or just unmute and ask those questions. So perhaps maybe I could start off by adding some extra ideas here. So I think Venkiji's Maktaha Parataram Nanyat Kinchidasti Dhananjaya was superlative presentation about the interpretations of that. So I just want to add one point here. So that Paratara that Venkiji was discussing so much about Paratara. And Krishna's statement here, which is Veda-Vyasa's statement, Veda-Vyasa is Badarayana, Krishna Dvaipayana, our founding father of Vedanta Shastra. And Veda-Vyasa here has clearly said, Mattaha Parataram. So he said there is nobody equal to me, and of course by implication, nobody higher than me, he has already said. So this particular verse unfortunately has huge problem for monistic thinkers. So I just want to remind folks about the problems of, as I said before in Isha Upanishad, what is knowledge, what is not true knowledge, what is true knowledge, and what is not true knowledge. Knowing what is not true knowledge is also true knowledge, and there are benefits of each. So this particular verse, I just wanted to share that this creates a lot of problem for monistic thinkers. The reason being, monistic thinkers have said Krishna, Vedavyasa, Rama, everybody are Saguna Brahmans. They are actually Mithya. They actually don't exist. There is something that is higher than the Saguna Brahman called Nirguna Brahman. Okay. But here Krishna has very clearly, categorically told himself, mate, there is nobody higher than me. He has already said he is Paratara. So there is nothing called a Nirguna Brahman beyond Krishna. Krishna is the final point. There is nothing called a Nirguna Brahman from a monistic perspective. So this particular verse is a standing example of how Vedavyasa himself has told us that Krishna is Parabrahman. Yeah. He is Nirguna Brahman because he's got infinite non-material attributes. He is Saguna Brahman because he's got infinite non-material attributes. So it is only from various perspectives in which you look at it, but there is nothing called something which is superior to Saguna Brahman. Okay. So this particular verse captures that idea very, very, very clearly. And monistic philosophers have huge problem getting around this problem around this verse. And I just wanted to remind folks. That was my little contribution for what was Venki's amazing, amazing presentation.
Yeah, excellent. That is really, really nice. The non-needness of Saguna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman is very beautifully explained. So thank you for the additional insight.
And of course, there are lots of other discussions, isn't it? Maybe next week we can figure out about why, we could not have said Jada as, Para and
Yeah.
Shri Tattva as Paratara, and why Vishnu cannot be said as Paratama, why only Apara, Para, and Paratara is given. All those discussions are really beautiful that our Acharyas, our Tippani, Raghavendra Tirtha, and so on, they give such beautiful, beautiful, deeper understanding of this Vijnana. So that was another one. Yeah.
Yes.
Madhuji, just one, I thought maybe if you could add on the knowledge per se as to, when we talk about when we did talk about knowledge, saying that the Sutta Pramanyam, and how do I know it's justified? How do I believe true? So maybe if you could throw a little more light on that, I thought it will be very helpful.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely, Sureshji. So first one I wanted to say is, and again, TSR has dealt with this in his volume, talking about this is, so here Krishna is telling Arjuna, look, I'm going to give you all this special knowledge, and he's citing all the verses. So then the question is, Arjuna is Indra. He is number 8 in the Vedic pantheon. His clarity of knowledge and his depth and extent of knowledge is so much more different than mundane jivas like us. So the question there is, by going through these verses that Krishna is giving Arjuna, does that mean we will also understand to the same extent and depth that Arjuna would have understood when Krishna was teaching him? So that is the one point. The other point, of course, is we know that Mahabharata has got at least 10 different correct meanings. There's at least got 10 different correct meanings, and there's more than 10 different knowledge that people can get from Mahabharata, which is where Gita is. Gita is part of Mahabharata. So the extent and the depth of knowledge that probably Arjuna would get would be more than 10, of course. For every word that Krishna has used, probably his knowledge will be 10 times more. Yeah. For us, we can't even understand one meaning properly, let alone understanding 10. And that there are so many other transliterations which are problematic as well to start with. So there are all those kind of issues for us. That is the other one. But the key there is what Arjuna understood from what Krishna taught him probably is an entirely different level and league than what we are trying to understand is in satsang. So that is the second point I wanted to talk about. And then of course knowledge ourselves we touched upon is quite a lot, isn't it, in Kena Upanishad, and that's where we are basically stuck actually understanding what is it that is being said. And as Venki was mentioning, that those verses in Kena Upanishad actually were good background to how to understand Jnana Vijnana Yoga. And to get this Jnana Vijnana Yoga in the right perspective, my humble submission is that we have to go to Pramana Lakshana of Srimad Acharya, Pramana Paddhati of Jayatirtha, and understand what is that epistemology that is being discussed in the Vedantic Shastra. And then the taxonomy that Venkiji so beautifully said, to get that in right perspective, we have to go to Tattva Sankhyanā of Srimad Acharya and Tattva Viveka of Vedavyasa, which is what Srimad Acharya has actually given to us. So these works become very important to get the depth of that. So that was the third point. And of course, the knowledge as well. Like there is a means of knowledge, and then there is the knowledge. So, Yathartha Jnanam, as we discussed, Yathartha Jnanam means what? Knowing something as it is Yathartham. So, Jnanam has to be Yathartham. So, that is true knowledge, knowing things as they are, and the means of knowledge that shows to us the knowledge of things as they are. So even Pratyaksha, Anumana, Agama can also be Yathartham as long as they show the knowledge of the object to the Jiva as it is. And then the knowledge as such is Yathartham. If it is true knowledge, then if there is a cup in front of you, the knowledge of the cup that you have, if that knowledge that you have actually is corresponding to the actual presence of that object in front of you, then that knowledge becomes Yathartham. Okay, then the other point there is that knowledge in the future should never be sublated. That is, this knowledge of a cup should never become knowledge of a plate. It should always be the knowledge of the cup always remains and it is unsublated. Anaropitam pramiti vishayaha, and also not sublated. Something that is unsublated is true knowledge. Okay, that is the fourth point we understand. Then, of course, Vedas, Pramanya. How do you know that some knowledge is actually true knowledge? Pramanya, Pramanyatva of knowledge is Swataha. Swataha Pramanyam. The true nature of the knowledge, how shall I put it? Pramanyam Swataha means the authenticity of the knowledge is in the knowledge itself. You don't need an external agency to actually to confirm that this is true knowledge. So these are subtle points that of course Acharya and Jayati that talk about that epistemology in great sense. The key there, the reason why that becomes important is Vedas are Swataha Pramanya. Vedas are Swataha Pramanya. Of course, the validity of the knowledge. Vedas are authoritative. Why Vedas are authoritative? A, because they are Apaurushaya, they are Nitya, and they are Swataha Pramanya. So those are the three criteria in which the knowledge of the Vedas is considered to be valid. And in that Swataha Pramanya becomes very important, that the validity of the Vedas is in the Vedas itself. Yeah, you don't need an external agency to prove that this is a valid knowledge. Whereas apramanyam parataha. So the false knowledge is because our own problems, our own indriyas, which are all external, which makes a knowledge defective. Whereas the knowledge is as it is in Vedas is swataha. And of course, Gita is what? Gita is actually a summary of the Vedas. And who has composed the Gita? Veda Vyasa has composed the Gita. Veda Vyasa is who? Veda Vyasa is Narayana himself. How do we know Narayana is Sarvajna? All the Upanishads and Vedas talk about him. Yes, Sarvajnaha, Sarvavid. He is Sarvajna. All the Vedas talk about. So that is how you settle that question. How do you know God is Sarvajna? So it is that Veda Vyasa who has composed it. And as this Veda, Venkiji beautifully mentioned about Brahma and Sutra, Brahma Sutra, which is the Nirnayaka Shastra, Paravidya, which is also composed by Veda Vyasa. So there, that Anubandha Chatushtaya comes up, isn't it, when we know about the knowledge about Anubandha Chatushtaya, what is the Adhikari, what is the Vishaya, Purva Paksha, what is the Siddhanta, what is the Prayojana, everything is supremely present in the Gita. So Gita is the most authoritative scripture that gives you the true knowledge. So that is how I was going to sort of draft this, Sureshji, about getting the true knowledge here. Knowledge as such is actually true in itself. It is our problem that we misinterpret it. But knowledge, Vedas is Swataha Pramanya. Gita, Swataha Pramanya. It is only our problem. So we have to, the today's class, for example, is establishes that Swataha Pramanyatva of the Vedas so beautifully. So on that note, I will kind of stop my piece. We'll get others to chip in. Thank you, Suresh. Isn't it the seventh verse? So the seventh verse is beautiful. So the seventh, it is not a coincidence, I feel, that Venkiji was mentioning about the seventh verse of this being the most important verse. because as he was mentioning, 8 is so important in Vedic philosophy. Similarly, number 7 is all pervasive. So hopefully in the next verse when we do Keno Upanishad, I've got a slide of all the sevens coming up. The whole of the universe can be compressed in 7. And not surprisingly, the 7th verse of the 7th chapter is important. Maybe we have to go and see what is the 7th word of that 7th line. Maybe there is something really important on that.
I really loved how you brought the love for classification that Veda Vyasa has, and his Priya Shishya, Srimad Anantirth Sriman Madhvacharya ji, he has compiled so many shastras which are classification based, like you just said, Tattva Sankhya, Tattva Viveka, as well as the Pramana Lakshana, where he is classifying all of those. And thank you for reminding us of Tattva Sankhya, Tattva Viveka, and Pramana Lakshana. That was really, really good.
Any further questions from anyone? Right, sounds good. No further questions. So in that case, Venkiji, do you want to do a vote of thanks for today's session, and then we will close
Yes.
the Om Chintana. Yeah.
Yes, I want to thank all of our gurus, Swamiji, my own Guru Kesharao, Meeraji, and then of course Madhuji, and all of the classmates that really, really, really invigorated the discussion yesterday, which made it so much more appealing, and also for the great summarization that Madhuji just gave. And I want to thank Madhuji for it. I want to thank Sureshji for even recruiting me to present the 7th chapter, which is the Jnana Vijnana Yoga. And then also feel very lucky to have gotten the 7th shloka associated with that. Uh, I might have engineered it so that I could speak about it. I don't know. but but thank you so much. And then I'm very excited to hear GVG speak, as well as Prakash and Prakash ji, as well as Neeta ji and yourself next week or the 2 weeks. Many thanks to all of you, and happy Father's Day, happy Grandfather's Day, happy um, and good weekend for all of you.
Thank you, Venkiji. Suresh, do you want to recite Om and we close today's session? Thank you, Suresh. Thank you, Venkiji. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. So we will continue with the spirit of Gita. Next Sunday will be part 2 of chapter 7, and Hari Icha will see how that goes. And if we need to have part C, then we will go with part C. So let's see how it goes. On that note, Hare Krishna. Take care, everyone. See you next week.
Thank you.